I'm gonna tell you about some books that I've read recently. About my Hank Williams tape needs to be rewound. Great record. This book is written by Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, and then with edits and sections by his student, Sister True Dedication. It's pretty, so far it's pretty much fluff with like a paragraph of content phrased in layman's terms every few pages. If Zen Buddhist philosophy is like something new to you, then this would like blow your mind, but it's not blowing my mind so far. I finished this book like months and months ago. Blood Meridian, Cormac McCarthy. I don't usually read fiction. This, however, is very worth it if you don't like fiction. The way that it's written is a way that I've never read anybody before. The prose is hard to follow as far as plot goes, but the illustrations, once you learn how to read it as a story and sort of as an elongated poem, then you get it. Really beautiful. Yeah, just not something to read if you enjoy punctuation and paragraphs, however. Keep that in mind. A Maimonides reader is basically like I don't know how many pieces are in here actually from Maimonides, but I'm reading it now. I'm probably about halfway through, and I'm going out of order for the things that are in here because I'm studying it in class at the minute. Yeah, Maimonides is good. The way that this is formatted is very comprehensive. Listen, it's very traditionalist Jewish philosophy. Nothing groundbreaking here, really, unless you've never touched the subject before. It's good, it's fine. This, however, this is Hermann Cohen's Neo-Kantianism and Jewish Philosophy. I've only read a very small subsection of this so far. It's great. The way he writes is awesome. It's very dense. Not as dry, however, as somebody like Kant, who I find pretty much insufferable to read. Yeah, good ideas. I like it so far. I finished this. Book of Mercy by Leonard Cohen. The format of this is interesting and not typical for books of poetry. The poems themselves are basically formatted like almost like chapters and like brief few page paragraphed pieces, but it is poetry. It is 100% poetry. Now this is number 17. I've annotated Nothing Works But You. The poem reads as following. Did we come for nothing? We thought we were summoned, the aging head waiters, the minor singers, the second-rate priests, but we couldn't escape into these self-descriptions, nor lose ourselves in the atlas of coming and going. Our prayer is like gossip, our work like burning grass. The teacher is pushed over, the bird watcher makes a noise, and the madman dares himself to be born into the question of who he is. Let the light catch the thread from which the man is hanging. Heal him inside the wind. Wrap the wind around his broken ribs. You know where Egypt was, and for whom he rehearses these sorrows, Our Lady of the Torah, who does not write his history, but whose kind lips are the law of all activity. How strangely you prepare his soul. The heretic lies down beside the connoisseur of form. The creature of desire sits on a silver ring. The counterfeiter begs forgiveness from the better counterfeiter. The angel of darkness explains the difference between a palace and a cave. O bridge of silk, O single strand of spittle glistening, a hair of possibility, and nothing works but you. Alright. Thank you, Leonard Cohen. Atypical formatted poetry, free-form poetry, that is rooted in Jewish theology and philosophy. I would recommend this book. The Bhagavad Gita. Oh, the translation, translated by Barbara Stoller Miller. This translation is my favorite translation of the Bhagavad Gita because it's not written in formal or old English. Basically translated in contemporary layman's English. in addition to not mistranslating Sanskrit terms that previous translations have mistranslated. And when it's written like this is the way it's supposed to be read. Essentially, if you've never read the Bhagavad Gita before, it's the entire thing subsectioned into teachings. So like this is the third teaching. The thing is just a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. It's just these two guys having a conversation for the entire book. I would literally recommend reading the Bhagavad Gita to genuinely anybody. Yeah, pretty much everybody should read this. Just read it. It's very easy. It's very small. If you get this translation, it won't be inaccessible language-wise at all. Everybody should read this. The Upanishads. Now this is hard to get through, and basically the only translation you're going to find in English is Patrick Olivelle, which was the translation from like the 80s, early 80s I want to say, and has been used since. Upanishads are basically a collection of, I think it's between 13 and 14 Upanishads, which were sort of popularized as the primary or core texts to study that Buddhism, contemporary Buddhism and Hinduism, and the Bhagavad Gita were sort of based upon. But this is only because they were commentated on by Shankara, who's this Sanskrit philosopher. You know, there's sections that are just poetry or musical lyric that are kind of cryptic as far as imagery goes, unless you're already familiar with the philosophical fundamentals of what they're speaking about. But you know, if you're interested in the context of contemporary Buddhism and Hinduism, this is a really interesting thing to read, but it won't make a lick of sense to you unless you sort of read the philosophers surrounding it, like Shankara, or you could read Dignaga as well, but that would just sort of give you the metaphysical. Yeah, don't read Dignaga if you've never read any of that before. Definitely read Shankara. Einstein's Theory of Relativity. Banger of a book. Banger of a book. I gotta tell you that. Like, I have hardcover, and this is a real old copy. Listen, usually I would expect hard science people who that's where their primary, center of focus is, especially physicists and mathematicians. They write like shit for the most part, which is why a lot of analytical philosophy is like, no! Descartes. Mathematicians can't write. Actually, Einstein can, is the thing though. Probably because he was kind of shit at math. The entire book uses metaphor to illustrate these concepts in physics and quantum physics, in Newtonian physics and quantum physics. He begins with illustrating things with Newtonian physics, and then he moves to the quantum ideas about halfway through. He explains things using trains, which is amazing, and it makes a lot of sense. And then when he spends a couple chapters explaining things, he does in fact show you the equations and explain what everything means. So you don't have to solve just like an equation put there or really comprehend how that would work, because you've just read everything through metaphor and illustration, verbal illustration to what this would actually mean. He's simply articulating it in the pure mathematical sense for those who can comprehend it and want to know it. Obviously, it gets denser as it goes through. It's not like, it's really, I don't know, I find the language very accessible, very comprehensive, and if you're already familiar with the concepts discussed in this book, like non-Newtonian physics, such other things, it won't be hard to follow at all. It's very easy to follow, very easy to grasp, and very engaging. I find Einstein a very engaging writer personally. Not dry. Shockingly not dry. Jack Kerouac. I haven't finished this yet. I'm about like 3/4 of the way through, okay? Mexico City Blues. This is a more typically formatted poetry book. Things are in choruses, but very typical as far as poetry goes. One poem per page, unless it bleeds over into the next one, but typically one poem per page. You know, they're free form, of course, though actually I think there might be a couple Shakespearean sonnets in here, but freeform for the most part, what you would expect of a poetry book. Easy to get through. Actually, yeah, I think I'm gonna read this one. So this is the 111th chorus. I didn't attain nothing when I attained highest perfect wisdom, known in Sanskrit as Anatara Samyak Sambodh. I attained absolutely nothing. Nothing came over me. Nothing was realizable. In dropping all false conceptions of anything at all, I even dropped my conception of highest old wisdom, and turned to the world, a Buddha inside, and said nothing. People asked me questions about tomatoes robbing the vine and rotting on the vine, and I had no idea what I was thinking about, and abided in blank ecstasy. Yep. So this entire book is extremely inspired by South Asian and Sanskrit philosophy, particularly Buddhism. You could obviously find threads of Hinduism in there, but it's mostly Buddhism. I don't really know the complete context of this book. I just know that he was clearly hot on South Asian and Sanskrit philosophy at the time. And so a lot of these poems are very Kerouac articulations of the Buddha's metaphysics. It's a nice way to grasp onto a lot of these abstract metaphysical ideas in a way that is more beautiful and less, perhaps, analytical. But I won't say it lacks any analytical depth, because it certainly doesn't. Ginsberg's Complete Collection. Now, for transparency, I've almost finished this book, but let's take a look at how thick this is. This is literally everything Ginsberg ever wrote. I haven't finished it. I love this too. But, you know, this is Ginsberg. Chasing rabbits, pulling my hair and howling at the moon. A lot of wordier poems, longer, like, you know, pages and pages and pages of the same poem. Amphetamine rambling poems, you know. Not to say Kerouac didn't do that, of course, but Ginsberg did it more. You know, it's queer, it's Jewish, it's drug addicted, it's troubled. I know too much and not enough. I love this book. The next one's Lysergic Acid. A universe that eats and drinks itself, sentient part of the interrelated machine, making waves outward in time to the beholder. 1947 and moves all the way to 1997. So, a large swath of time covered. Horse to town today. I'm blowing them up in hollered wounds, they fill them up with gas. That's the best lyric in this whole song. Those are all the books that I recommend right now. I'm also reading this very thick Spinoza book. This book that I stole the cover for because I have a hardcover copy. It's about this thick. It's like as thick, if not slightly thicker than this book. Collection of Spinoza's works, including excerpts from like Ethics and shit, which I've already read, some of it, but not all of it. I just read this section on his thought. What was it? Miracles. He gets so heated when it turns to superstition. It's so funny, and I wrote an exam on it. Anyways, so. Some blues.